Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics Tuesday night Q&A ahead of round 14. Feels like round 13 only just finished, but that's because it did, because we're only just over 24 hours removed from round 12, and we're only 48 hours away from the next round starting. So tight turnaround for us, but as a football lover, I do love it because it's only 2 days a week this week. There's no football, but I'm your host, Bales, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials. And joining us, as always, is a couple of co-hosts and fellow AFL Fantasy Fanatics. And we obviously heard from 24 hours ago, but we got Guesty on tonight. Guesty, mate, how are you?
Not too bad, mate. Not too much different than how I was last night.
Exactly right, mate. Yep, short week. But a man that we didn't chat to last night, we got on tonight. Good old Jordox. Jordox, mate, how are you? How was the weekend?
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah, good weekend. I feel the same as you. Like, I'm bummed because the long weekend's over and, back to work. And hold on, there's a game of footy in 2 days. It's not all bad. So, yeah, no, I love it. Remember we didn't know each other back in 2020, but I just can imagine how much you would have loved that festival of footy. Remember we had like 21 days in a row where there was a game every day. Now that was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. Obviously, not the COVID part of it, as I know that's not what you're talking about. Well, but yeah, the footy part of it daily, it was pretty fun for that period. I wouldn't mind if they did that for like 2 weeks, maybe just like a game of footy every day. But we'll see what happens
again.
Yeah, probably not. But obviously, we didn't hear from you, mate. So, how did your weekend go in fantasy? What did you end up scoring? What was your round rank if you got it, and then overall rank? What's that looking like?
Shit house would be the word I'd use. I scored 18-13 and drifted outside of 10K. So I'm now at 10-1-8-2. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do with this crappy side of mine. I mean, I keep trying to polish that turd, but it's still a turd.
Oh, mate, at least your boy Walshy turned up. That's at least that's a positive.
Oh, yeah.
That's a positive. So
that's true.
Plus and -3.
Yep. +3. Nick Mad Dog Madden. What a legend. That was a pretty impulsive move on the Thursday because he'd only just been named, and I sort of did a lot of trading that night. Just had a feeling he'd be good, and he was. It was great. So he was on field. Won't be for me this week, but great to get an 80 out of him. And then -3. I don't know. It's hard to sort of pinpoint where it all went wrong. Because I didn't really have any shocking scores. You know what? I reckon I'll just give it to Taranto again. Every week Taranto doesn't score a ton, he's going to get my -3. So that's how I'm running it.
Yeah. Oh, he's on bye this week, so we'll ask you later on. But I wonder if he's in. I wonder if he's in your trade plans. He's been
that's
a thorn, literally a thorn in your side all season.
And there's no rose. There's no rose. It's all thorns.
Yeah. What did you actually? I don't even think you said. What was your actual score? Like, what was your team score? Did you say what it was?
Yeah, 18-13.
Okay, maybe I must have just gone over the top of my head, but there you go. You get to hear Jordox score twice if that's the case. But we will have a special guest jumping on very, very shortly. A good friend Liam, obviously from Free Kick, the official AFLW Fantasy podcast. He'll be jumping on, and we'll be able to answer a heap of your questions. But boys, obviously we're into another bye week. Obviously, it feels like we've been having buys for a while, but we're only 2 weeks in, and we still got 3 more weeks. So we're still not even halfway through the bye weeks. We've got 2 more teams come off the bye, and Freo and St Kilda, so plenty of options from those 2 teams. But I think, boys, we'll quickly touch on a couple of mid prices and I'm interested to get Liam's thoughts when he jumps on a couple of these. So actually, we'll touch on them in a sec. So, Jordox, I want to ask you about Freo and St Kilda, those 2 teams come. So, Freo, is there anyone from Freo that you're liking the look of in terms of targets? So, like, you've got your Jordan Clark potentially in defence. I think Luke Ron's probably not really an option for us at the moment. Midfield, you've got Brayshaw and Sarong. Obviously, Luke Jackson looked very good as that number 1 ruck and then midfielder. And then we also got could people dabble in the Shea Bolton potentially? So anyone from Freo that's tickling your fancy?
Not really. I've got Brayshaw already. Sarong, Clark, they're good. They're good value if they can go on and have a big second half of the year. But no one really on my radar. The only guy I would think of, but no, I wouldn't do it. Erasmus at 488. He just had a nice 80 before the bye, and yeah, maybe him, but no, there's nothing really sticking out.
Yeah. I think if you don't have a Brayshaw, I think he's still an option. He's obviously a bit more expensive, but you know what you're getting from him. He's pretty consistent with what he's doing. I think take a brave coach to jump on Sarong. Guesty, is anyone from Freo is Sarong someone that you're looking at? He's obviously cheap, but I guess you could say cheap for a reason because he hasn't had those ceiling scores. He's more of a not number one tag guy. Sarong, someone that you've considered potentially this week?
Look, I mean, if you haven't got Brayshaw, I think Brayshaw definitely is an option just because, I think we kind of see him as a top 8 mid. I think most people would agree with that, but he came off, he started well in the year. He's kind of dropped off a little bit mid-year. So I think he's underperforming a little bit. So I do think there's potentially a tiny bit of value there. Look, I do think Sarong is not a bad option. Do also remember that in probably just a couple of games before his bye, we started to see the tag drift to Brayshaw a little bit. So, I think maybe there's a chance that he could perform better in the second half of the year. But, once again, it'd probably take a pretty brave coach to go there right now. Luke Jackson, I think, is the other one. But, now that Darcy's back in the side, I'm not sure that anyone's going to be bringing him in. I mean, we've seen him play that midfield role, and obviously he's been scoring well. But, I think it's likely that Freo continue with that because it's kind of been working for them. But once again, it's just, it's a bit like Sarong. He just doesn't give me a lot of confidence and probably not someone that I'd be bringing in unless, that was kind of all the cash that I had. I guess that's where I sit with the Freo boys.
Yeah, I'd agree. I do like Luke Jackson, though. I think he's someone that you can definitely look at. I like the fact that he could be ruck cover if something were to happen to one of our two rucks. You can flick him into the ruck. I think if he's the number one ruck and then as a midfielder, I think that's a great role and could be a good scoring. And Jordy obviously was onto that and he got him early. So he's pretty happy with having Jackson in his team now. So I think he's someone, I don't think Shea Bolton knows someone that you'd be targeting. I think he's that guy that's under that blanket of you've got the top three in Baz, Martin, and Kennedy. Then you got a couple of guys like maybe Petrarca's, McRae's, and then it starts getting a bit like that F6. Brian Myers probably got to be there as well. Then you've got like your Chad Warners, your Isaac Rankins, your Horn France when he's back. Shea Bolton, maybe Caleb Daniel. There's a heap of these guys that could average 90 or a little bit under, but they also might average 80. So I think Shea Bolton's there, and he's probably a guy that's likely to average closer to 80 than 90, but we know he can go on good stretches. We do have a few super chats here, actually, so we'll get to before we do touch on the Saints. So Matt has got the first super chat, so thank you, mate, for the first one. He's third in Lord of the Buys somehow, he says, but congrats, mate. Obviously going along, having a very, very good buy period. I know that Guesty is in the top 50 of Lord of the Buys as well, so I'll go to Guesty for this one here. He's saying he's listening in via pod. He's looking at going Bice, Hardiman, and Peatling out. So he's looking at going McCercher and Rosie or Nasiah, or Doc and Bergman, both 200 and both with a 230k rook. That probably likely being McCarthy. First is less cash gen, but keepers. But the second is more cash gen, but then having to trade later. So Guesty, I think Bice, Hardiman, Peatling would probably all agree that you can trade them. It's fine. Hardiman obviously doesn't have that as good a role now with Colby back there. Are you going McCercher and one of those big boy defenders in Rosie on the sire, or are you going for a Doherty and Bergman?
Yeah, look, I think I'm going definitely for the Kirch and Rosie and Nazire.
Agreed. Who are you going out of those two?
I'd probably be going, I think it's Rosie
last week.
Yeah, I went Rosie. I think if you haven't got Rosie, I think he's the most solid kind of trading target at the moment. I'm not sure of the price difference between the two. Is there much between them?
No, I wouldn't imagine so. I think Rosie is more expensive, but it's only about 30k, I believe. So Rosie is 1.06 and the size 1.04. So there's only about 20k between.
And what are the runs for each of these players like?
Yeah, so Rosie's obviously got Melbourne this week, which we just saw Josh Dacos have a pretty good game. Then they go Sydney, Carlton, Brisbane. So it's a pretty tough 3-week stretch after that. But we know obviously Nasiah, they got a pretty nice run for the remainder of the year because they got a lot of games on the roost. They go Dogs, Collingwood, Freo, Hawthorn, Sydney, and then they've got Geelong, Melbourne, North, Richmond, Essendon. And you go Marvel, Optus, Marvel, GMHBA, Marvel. So it's a lot of those Marvel games. But we know Rosie's as solid as a rock this year, right? He's only had 3 scores below a ton, all being as I think it's Rosie just, but geez, I'd almost be tempted maybe by Nasai with that harder 3-watch stretch. So you'd still go Rosie based on that run, Tim?
We also would maybe depend where he's sitting. Probably the lower owned one would be Messiah, right? So if you're right up the top, you might consider the pod.
Yeah, maybe you go for maybe Nasai for a bit of a points difference. Where actually, you 46th, Guesty in Lord of the Buys. Is that where you're sitting?
35, mate. 35.
35th. Sorry, I didn't give you enough credit there. But 35th. No, going along very nicely.
What on earth is Lord of the Buys? What are you talking about?
Have you been living under a rock, Jordox? What's going on? It's Urban. Urban's comp. He's run it for I think 3 years. Is it 3 years, Tim? 4 years? Something like that. It's every year runs an open league where from round 12, the start of the buy, and then whoever scores the most throughout the buys ends up winning a prize. Urban's
Lord of the Buys.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Who cares about the prize?
Right.
It's the title I want.
Yeah.
Oh, good thing I didn't join that this year. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Yeah, very good.
Oh, love it. We got another super chat as well from Tim Ashworth. Thank you, mate. He's saying, Joyce's saying, would you trade Ashcroft? I'm assuming that's Levi, or keep him and go Chad Warner to Kennedy instead. So who are you going? Is it Ashcroft out, or is it Warner who's on bye this week to Kennedy?
I'll probably go Ashcroft. I mean, you've just got to. You've gone for Warner. I reckon you got to wait for it to come back. I mean, he's been pretty good the last 2.
He gave away 5 free kicks to get that 80. If it wasn't for that, he would have scored. It would have gone well over a ton.
Yes, he just had such a slow start. He'd just be such a nerve-wracking own. But Ashcroft, I mean, he was pretty good. 63. 2 more weeks till his bye. Yeah, I'd say Ashcroft. Yeah.
Levi goes. You trade the rookie in that scenario, I think, and then you get Kennedy, and you get very, very happy about it because he is absolutely killing it at the moment. Kent Hodder's got the super chat. One of them for sure. I think Ned Long might have something to say about that, and even a Lockie Ash. But Kenny's obviously been fantastic. Kent Hodder's got this super chat. Thank you, mate. In a good spot, top 1,000. So going on very nicely. Nice. Team value nearly 25 million. Jeez. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm at 23.3. So, cool. That's fantastic. So, would you prioritize Nasiah or Kennedy in with Butters? Levi, Sheldrick, Roberts out. I'll answer this one. I think I'm actually going Kennedy in this week. I think that the run over the next month is delicious. He's got St Kilda, Richmond, Sydney, and then I think it's Adelaide, I believe, or North Melbourne. North Melbourne, sorry. So that run is just fantastic. He's a top 3 forward, and I know Nasai is a top, probably almost a top 3-4 defender, but I'd go Kennedy because he might get to a point where he gets to like 1.1 and then you just can't get him. So, and with the lack of forwards, he's clear your top 3. I think I'm getting him, but both are very good ins. And he's also more of a pod as well compared there. So he's saying Levi, Sheldrick, and Roberts out, which I would also agree with trading those guys out. But we do have our special guests jumping on straight from footy training, a good friend, Liam from Free Kick, the official AFLW Fantasy podcast. Liam, mate, we haven't spoken to you for a few weeks. How are you?
I'm not too bad, guys. G'day, Bales. G'day, Guesty. G'day, Jordox. Yeah, look, I have just jumped off the bike directly from footy training, so my mind is certainly on the game. And anything to not think about the last couple of weeks would be great.
Oh, okay. Because I was just about to ask you, how have you been going? Because obviously I haven't checked in for a couple of weeks. So
I've been Toby Green, Bales. I've been Toby Green twice. So that should give you some indication of how things have gone in the last couple of weeks.
Yowzers.
Yeah. What did you end up scoring this previous week, and what's your overall rank out?
I had a 1796, and I'm a hair over 2100, so dropped back about 550 spots last week. So,
yeah,
not exactly spectacular. I also Did bring in Riley Hardiman last week. So cash good. I'm up at near 1,000 rank for team value, but have now dropped over 1,100 spots in the last 2 weeks.
Yep. Actually, I'm just curious, where would I be sitting at 23.4? I'm just curious because I'm quite down below a lot of people.
That's a lot of scrolling, Bales. That's a lot.
Bales, if you give me a minute, Bales, I'll get you your team value rank.
All good, all good. I'm certainly not in a rush to hear that I'm outside the top 40,000 for team value. That's for sure. We'll just answer these couple of super chats here as well. So Jack Main has got this one. Jordox, will go for you for this one. He's asking, so scored 17.98, need cash, only have one green dot on the bench. So thinking Sardell Hawley to a Zach Johnson, and then Marley to Madden, Ashcroft to Horne-Francis. Good trades for moving up the ranks. So I guess the question would be, have they got Gawn? And would you bring in Madden if he's just your R3 and not scoring for you? What do you reckon?
I reckon his cash is going to be good. But Johnson I like. I think that role looked good for him and he had a nice score. Ashcroft to Horne-Francis.
Let me have a look at Horne-Francis. Break even. 151 break even.
I wouldn't mind having a look at him first.
I think you'll play forward a little bit more just in the first week.
His ownership's still at 22%, but you'd think that's a lot of ghost ships there. Maybe, Jack, maybe just have a look. I don't know where to get this info. There's plenty of people with this sort of stuff, but like how many people in the top, it depends what you're chasing, top 1,000 held Horne-Francis. That would be an interesting thing to look at. But look, overall, I think the trades are pretty fine. I think Bales makes a really good point about Madden. In a perfect world, he's going to be on field for you, covering one of your buy guys. But yeah, in terms of getting some green dots, get some cash gen, I think those moves look pretty good.
Yeah, I would arguably go for DC's mate Brent Daniels over Horne-Francis, and I flagged the Brent Daniels one, saying to keep him on your watch list. I believe it was last night as well. So I would like to say good minds think alike, but DC is a good mind, and I'm certainly not based on this year. So, but Brent Daniels is someone to definitely look at. I'm just having a look here at Horne-Francis ownership, because you're obviously asking about that there, Jordox. But in shout out to Moreau's Magic for having these stats up here. So Jason Horne-Francis, so his ownership is 1% in the top 1,000, 0% top 100, top 10. So obviously everyone has traded him. So he's completely gone. So yeah, maybe something, but I don't know if I'd launch there this week. And we just, Jack also said another super chat here saying he's going, holding Lindsay, McAuliffe, Foss on field, is that bad? If you've got to upgrade them and they're on your field best 22, they are of the highest priority to try and upgrade before the end of the buys. So I would be trading those guys. McAuliffe can arguably go. I think Lindsay has to go out of those three. McAuliffe can go because he's on buy, and Foss has just kickstarted a little bit of cash gen. So you could probably hold.
I don't mind McAuliffe. If you're stuck with McAuliffe at M8, no, I don't think that's the end of the world.
Well, if they're on field, that's 3 rookies on field, which means, well, have you got 22 on field? That means you got 19 great players, right? So it depends what the question is for this week, but you definitely could.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think if Jack's saying that these are 3, if he has best 22 this week, like in terms of post buys, and they're still rookies on his field, then they've got to go. Meaning, so I think that you've got to try and upgrade. McCercher makes a lot of sense in this scenario. We'll chat about him very shortly. And Tim Ashworth. Ashcroft down to Colby McCercher if you've got some DPP there, or even go Hardiman to Colby McCercher. But I'd probably be looking at doing a couple of those moves there, Tim. Cool. Liam, did you end up getting the team value there?
Yes, I do there, Bales. You are 11,937th.
We've moved up about 5,000 spots since I last asked, so I'll take that. That's something. So heading in the right direction.
But
how's that, Jordy?
You are like about 70 to 80 points a week down on 2,000th. If you convert the cash down to points. So that's the reason why it's a fascinating little stat, because it does kind of, to some degree, double count. You generate cash by getting players that score well that you're not looking at trading. So, to the extent that you've traded in Nick Martin in the last few weeks, that'll definitely kind of accelerated both your rank and your team value. It's just about, what's everyone's, this one is a much harder thing to calculate, but it would be great if someone, some industrious person could do it. What's your kind of bench cash generation looking like? What are you generating post buys, or basically from halfway through the season onwards, in cash? Because I think that's now going to become the more important thing, is how quickly can you get all of your cash off your bench on field.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm sort of disheartened when we had Taser on last night, and he's chatting about, he's going to have Colin McCercher as his 23rd premium post buys. I'm thinking, crap, I'm still trying to final rookie Oddfield. So he's having a very, very good season. Is a good friend Taser. We'll chat about St Kilda quickly, and then we'll go through all of your questions. So obviously the Saints, Liam, have got a few options for us to consider. So obviously you got your Jack Sinclair, Nasai Wangani Miller. You got maybe a Jack Steele in the midfield, a few people might be keen on post buy. Ryan Marshall, for those that are looking to maybe make a ruck trade, that may be something that potentially Gawn owners look at if they want a big cash grab next week. But the way Gawn's going, I don't know if I'd be trading him out. And then you've also got a Jack McRae in the forward line, along with maybe Isaac Keeler as a bit of a downgrade. Any of those, Liam, that are taking your fancy, potentially bringing in this week?
Look, I think that both Sinclair and Naz are going to be comfortably close to that top six blanket for defenders. They can both be targets for you. I personally, I'm not looking at Jack Steele. I think that he's had a bit of a scoring pop, kind of with some bodies missing there through the midfield. I would be trying to buy back into Jack McRae when I can. I think we've seen now that some of the forwards that we expected to be up and about earlier in the season have dropped away. In particular, someone like an Isaac Rankin. I think Jack McRae over the back end of the season is probably going to be high 90s, low hundreds average, and that's going to comfortably put him in the top six. So that's who I would be targeting. And he does have the advantage of managing to actually push through and play the rest of that game when he got injured. So you're not exactly sitting there maybe with a Zach Butters go, like, where it's an astronomically high break even. I need to wait a week because he's going to be cheaper next week. He might get close enough that it's indifferent, and you're going to take it for the points that he could score from now on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, for sure. It'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out in the back half of the year. Jordox, have you got either of the Saints boys or one of them? Are you looking at maybe one of those, and talking about defenders I'm talking about there? I said Saints boys, but that could have been any of them. Any of those defenders how many have you got, and are you looking at any?
I got Sinclair, and Wangani Miller is someone I've kind of thought I have to get, before I fall too far into the abyss. But no, he's not really on the radar at the minute. He's over $1 million. I think from now on, I've just got to go value and just play it that way. I've got Filippo, who, was strongly suggested could be back and not even miss a game, but I think he's been ruled out for this week. So no, I'm not sure if I'll be able to get to a Wangani Miller. McRae's interesting. I'll be pretty happy to give him a week and watch him before I do anything there. Any other Saints that take my fancy? Probably not. I mean, it's going to sound crazy, but Hugo Garcia, 6'18". He's cheap, and he just had a massive game in the twos. If they end up bringing him back, giving him another run, he could be a smart choice as well.
I think he might be a better choice in a keeper league or on the finest keepers pot, I reckon. I'm not sure I could jump back on him after.
Well, I never had him.
Just with this, just with the Saints boys, like Boxall's only getting 40% game time. I know Garcia might get a little bit more, but Ross scares me when it comes to those guys that are just on the fringe. Guesty, I want to get your thoughts on. Rowan Marshall, because obviously you're a happy Cherry and Gawn owner, and you don't have Marshall. Is he someone that you would be contemplating potentially with Gawn at all, or you'd recommend other people looking at Marshall as an option?
So I'm definitely contemplating it. I haven't really looked into it in too much detail at the moment, but one of the things I definitely need to do is get creative in terms of my cash gen, because my bench is, looking pretty bloody deplorable at the moment. It's pretty, it's hard to hear when you've got coaches like Taser and other coaches out there like Liam, with really high team values. I just haven't got that. But it's kind of played in my hands a little bit, like, not being able to get rid of a Caleb Daniel, and he's kind of turned it back around, not being able to get rid of a Harry Sheasel, but he's kind of turned it around. So look, it's definitely on the cards. I'm not sure yet. But we'll just have to see what happens when he gets to his buy. But yeah, definitely a consideration is trading Gordy to Marshall, pocketing some cash and doing some upgrades somewhere else.
Yeah, it's 200K between Gorn.
It's a lot of cash that could be used, And I'm a bit like you, Bales. I've still got one, at the moment, rookie on field with my, let's call it best 22. Look, obviously we've still got 3 buy rounds, so the plan is to, I'm actually looking to upgrade like an Angus Clark to like a Callum Mills or something like that next week. But yeah, we'll just see how we go.
Yep, something to look for sure. Tim Ashworth put another. Oh, sorry, I was just going to quickly say.
Everyone. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, Tim just put in a super chat there saying question lagged and it froze when you answered. So what was his question again? So Tim was asking about what would you do with Peatling, Ashcroft, and Hardiman? As I said, you can trade all 3, Tim. I would be going Hardiman, potentially down to a Zach Johnson, maybe a Peatling to, if you got DPP, obviously, maybe if you can get like a Colby or get a bit creative with that. But if you can go maybe Peatling and Ashcroft both up and get a couple of premiums in, that's probably what I do. But I'd also said, Tim, back yourself in, mate. You're having a very good year. You're just outside the 100. And I'm ranked near 10K. So you're going a lot better. Back yourself in. You've got to this point, backing yourself in. So I'd keep backing the premiums that you're going, mate. So keep having a good season. Liam, you said you had a question for us?
Yeah. It was something that was posed to me by my partner Eloise today, and I think it's a really tough one. A lot of us have Nick Martin, and so have the ability to free up a spot in our forward line or our defence. Who would you prefer to pick, Nazire or Kennedy? They are not that far apart in price. Nazire is 1,044K, and then Kennedy is 22K more.
Yeah, we actually had a super chat from Kent actually about that not too long ago. I said I would go Kennedy with that really nice month stretch with those games at Marvel, and then I think Richmond's in there, North, St Kilda, and Sydney as well. So I think I'd go there just with the lack of forward options, and he's clearly a top 3. But that was, I guess, where I'd be going there. Jordox, where would you go out of Nazire or Kennedy?
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with Kennedy. Just what you said there, and I don't know, something about the fact that I've already got Sinclair, already have the Saint in the back line. I know it's silly, but that stuff sways me. And I've just been hot on Kennedy all year, and I've just sat and watched him do what he's doing. I'd like to get on.
Yeah.
Guesty, where would you go, Nazire or Kennedy?
So I'm actually, I haven't looked into it a great deal. They're not options for me this week, but I'm actually leaning more towards the defender. And the reason for it would be, I guess, the differentials that you can get. So, when I was looking at kind of like the top 10 or the top 6 defenders today, they're scoring at a much higher rate than what forwards are. So, I would just be mindful of that. My initial pull is to look at bringing in the defender, not the forward.
Yeah, I just think that it's a tough one.
It's a tricky one. It's a good question. I think both are fantastic options. Liam, what side are you leaning to? Obviously, ask us what are you thinking at the moment?
Look, I am probably leaning a little bit more towards Nazire, because I think we've kind of done away very quickly with, we have some role questions about Kennedy. Treloar is back. It stands to reason that he had a great game on the weekend, but the Dogs got housed. Once they tried to fit in all these extra midfielders, it's the most lost we've seen Libba look in a while. Bont didn't look at his normal self, did not look like he was confident running from stoppage to stoppage. Yeah, Kennedy had a great game, but if you look at some of his efficiency metrics, it was not particularly great. And it was a game where they got absolutely pantsed. And as much as I think they're both great options, if I'm going push comes to shove, I'm going to take the guy where the only role changes he's getting at the moment have made him better pretty much in the last 6 weeks. So if it's a very close margin, but I think I'm leaning Nazire at the minute.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. Yeah, because you know what Nasai's his role is. If they're in the game or winning, he's likely to play at half back. If they're down by a fair bit, they're probably going to chuck him in the midfield, or that's at least what we've seen this year. So I guess, yeah, I think you probably know what you're getting with Nasai, but I feel like you almost can't go wrong. I think both are fantastic options. But
I mean, Kennedy's Bulldogs career has been 100% pure midfielder. So I get what you're saying, but I think that's why a lot of us held off on Kennedy, and it's now 13 weeks in. The evidence to me is pretty clear. They like him in the midfield, and he's scoring very nicely.
Yeah, it would just be interesting to see what happens when Chalor gets back up to full speed.
Well,
Libba was out there a fair bit as well.
Yeah, we've already seen Libba was the one that got pushed out on the weekend, and
he looked crap. They got smashed. I've never seen him look that lost in the last 3 years since he's kind of become more of a talismanic figure for them. He was dreadful, and a lot of the Western Bulldogs were, unless
Kennedy wasn't. Why would they punish him?
I didn't actually think that it was a particularly great game for the Dogs.
I reckon he's struggling with his Melbourne internet. I know how that goes.
I think Liam's thing's cutting
Kennedy
out. So
he couldn't hit a target.
I love that. Kenny couldn't hit target, and then that was all that we got.
Yeah, it's not Supercoach though. Don't worry about it. Anyway, let's push on.
We got another super chat here from Will Byatt as well. So thank you, mate. So his question, he's put the question in separately here. So he's asking, do I go Bice to Johnson, Dunkley to Kennedy, and Ashcroft to Butters, or the same thing, but instead of Butters, Doc and Rankin, or instead of Butters, Doc and Rankin, or Dunkley out if Doc? Slightly confused with the question, but Bice to go on Bice to Johnson, that's fine. Trading Ashcroft to Butters is good trade as well. I'm not Guesty. I don't know what you think about people trading, people are looking at trading out of Dunkley. I've heard Zach Merritt's name being thrown around as well, with the role being sort of thrown around week on week. What do you think about people trading out these preems? Is it depending on if you've got these rookies off? Is it depending where you are? Is this where you might get creative and bring in your Dohertys and stuff like that, which is obviously what Will's looking at doing? Where do you sit with trading out maybe your Dunkleys and maybe even a Zach Merritt?
Look, I'm kind of been put in the position this year where I'm approaching buyers in a much different way than I have in past years. I've kind of been a little bit more conservative. We've kind of had this focus a little bit more on 22 green dots in past years when we've had less buys and less trades. But I don't know, the thing that I've kind of noticed, like last year with the early round buys and this year with the early round buys, is like the teams that really got ahead are the teams that had those ceiling players that went, I don't want to say a guns and rookies strategy, but, they kind of leaned a little bit more that way than they did the mid-pricer kind of strategy. So, and then also having all the buy rounds that we've got, 5 buy rounds, we've got 3 trades in every buy round. So that's so many trades. Right at the beginning of the buys, you could pretty much turn over half your team, or a lot more than that, right? You could pretty much turn over your best 22 inside those trades. So, look, I'm all for considering trading out those kind of guys if they're not performing, and seeing what you can do with that money. Now, look, I just think you've got to be careful though who you're trading out and who you're trading in, and I'd be careful. Maybe there's an option to split them between mid prices this week, because I do really like, and maybe that's what we should be talking about a bit more, is Doherty and Kirch as options, because if we think they're as solid as I guess we're a bit bullish on them last night in the round review. But if we're still in that place, then there's definitely a play, depending on how your team's set up. If you're struggling for cash, to use those kind of players and bring in these kind of Doc and McCercher types.
Yeah, exactly. And Will just said that he has 10 primos on round 16 buys. So I would tick it off in that scenario. If you've got 10 primos, you've got to move a couple of them on.
And just to comment on Dunkley, I mean, the last 4 games, he's decreased in score every week, which is not a good trend. But I'm a little worried about his role. I didn't think it was going to impact his scoring so much, but he's just running with the opposition's best mid and doing a really good job of it. So getting the footy isn't his priority anymore, and it's just starting to show in the last few weeks. So, yeah, I wouldn't be completely against trading out Dunkley.
Yeah, I'm not against trading him out. All I'd say is, as a non-owner, I'm looking at his price of $9.68 and his 131 break even, and going, if he can show a big score or two over the next month, he's someone that I would be potentially looking at as an option. But yes, he's been very poor the last 4 weeks. He's actually reminding me a bit at the moment, a little bit like Caleb Sarong of last year, where he started off with a big score and he hasn't really done anything since. Like, he has his highest score since then was a 116 against Richmond in round 4, but since then he's only had 2 scores above 110. And that was in round 7 against St Kilda, round 9 against North. So 2 great matchups. And then he struggled outside that. But so maybe it is a bit of one where he's might just not get it done this year.
He's just getting 20 touches a game. Like the last 3 weeks, 21, 20, 20. He's just not there to get the pill at the minute. And, the difference with him and Sarong is Sarong gets the footy. Sarong will have 35 touches, but he doesn't lay enough tackles or take enough marks to convert that into a big score. Dunkley, we know he's the best stat stuffer of them all, but he's just not doing it at the minute. So, would you tick it off? I would tick it off.
Good point. Yeah,
McCluggage and Washcroft. We've seen before Josh Dunkley at Brisbane scores fewer points when Will Ashcroft was in there. And this is also the breakout season for Hugh McCluggage. He goes from, however many times he's been in the All-Australian squad to someone that in the first half of the season, I'm picking him in my All-Australian team. And over Lachie Neale. Lachie Neale accumulating doesn't affect Dunkley nearly as much. They do different things at stoppages, but I just think that the way in which, the Brisbane stoppage structure is currently, it is looking to go through Wash and McCluggage, who don't spend nearly as much time in the clinches, are really trying to get out on that second, third layer as quickly as possible. So I think that's substantially contributing to his lower scores. Now, heaven forbid any one of them has a role change or gets injured or whatever, Dunkley immediately becomes a candidate. But I think at this point, he's not a priority trade out, but I'm not against someone saying I need to get aggressive here and trade him out, because I just don't see it changing.
Yeah, it's a good point. And as you say, with Ashcroft and McCluggage, last year Dunkley got a lot of those +6s out on the opposite wing when they'd switch, whereas they're actually kicking in the corridor, and you've got Ashcroft and McCluggage for those little short kicks. So something definitely to be watching over the next few weeks for him. But It's Edge is saying, I'd be keen to hear your boys' thoughts on Colby McCercher and whether you think he's a trap or not. So on the big names of the week. So Liam, I'm keen to get your thoughts on Colby. We saw him obviously back in defence, 35 touch on the weekend, had a few kick-ins, and he had 6 in the end. But only had the 1 mark, and I think probably down the West Coast being a tough matchup. Do you think he's a good option if he keeps his role?
Yes. And then the question becomes, does he keep this role? Yeah. That was the highest player rating that Colby McCercher has ever had in any game. And I think we all kind of knew that he's not nearly as good a footballer when he had to attack the ball and then try and turn and go the other way. He is a run and stream, try and get out in space as quickly as he can. He's now cheap enough where I think he's value and you can pick him up.
Yeah, I think that the big thing for me is that Harry Shees on radio last week said that North Melbourne are going to be focusing on players playing specific roles, and they were going to stick to that role for the back half of the year to get more consistency. Pairing that with the fact that they made the choice of putting him back, I think I've got a bit of confidence that this role will stick for at least a bit, and I think he'll make some good cash. So I think he's not a trap. I think he's a good option, particularly for those teams that are trying to get that team value or trying to get. They're not like in the position of, I'll use Taser as an example, where they've got a bit of cash and they can go get some of these better premiums, and they can just go maybe a bias. They can't go bias to an Asaya, so like, well, I'll go bias to a Kyle McCercher, get a rookie off the field, but also get a guy that could arguably average 85, 90 in this role. And we saw it for a bit at the back end of last year that when he's got this role, he can average quite well. So something to be watching. Jordox, we got obviously mine and Guesty's thoughts on McCercher last night. What are your thoughts on Colby?
Yeah, big fan. Surprised it's taken this bloody long for North to do this. And, the fact that what you said, Bales, about Sheasel sort of saying that, we're going to try and stick everyone in their spots and keep them there, that bodes well. Liam's point on his player ranking bodes well. It just makes too much sense for them not to play him there for the rest of the year. And if that's what they do, it just makes too much sense for us to jump on at, 633K in the
42K to go bias to him. So I think
yes, please. Yeah.
Or even a trainer. If you go train to him, I think that's a good trade as well. So I think we're all liking Colby McCercher. But Cast of Riches is asking as well, am I taking too many risks if I bring in both Luke Jackson and Sam Doherty? So Liam, I wanted to get your thoughts on Sam Doherty. Obviously, he moved back to halfback as well. And I think he had obviously a very good fantasy game. But I think he played quite well as well, having a few of those big intercept marks. I think he took one late. I'm not sure if you were at this game. Obviously your Bombers there, but if you weren't, what were your thoughts on Doherty, and do you think he's an option for us? Oh, Liam, you're on mute.
Sadly, no. Internet is fine. I just forget that I've pressed the mute button. Sadly, I was at the game. Would rather pretend that the first quarter didn't exist. Sam Doherty is a perfectly adequate player to bring in. He's obviously not as much value as Colby, and he comes with some age concerns. Like we know that he's not exactly prone to finishing seasons, but I think that, as has been kind of pined on a million times, last week there was discussion about, I've had conversations with Vossi. They want me to go back to halfback. I think that's all well and good. I don't necessarily know if it's going to stick, because as much as Carlton won, I still don't think they're a particularly good football team, and it might be that the time will run out on Doc's move. But for the next month, I think more than adequate, and probably puts up some 90s, a low 90s average for you, and that's enough at this stage.
I would agree. With that. There's definitely a little bit of risk, but one that I am definitely happy to take. Golf Aliens sent through a super chat, so thank you, mate. I've got a Guesty for this one. We haven't heard from him for a couple of minutes. He's asking, do you think that Thilthorpe is better or Walker is better? Oh, hang on. Okay, maybe I'll answer this one then. Do you think Thilthorpe is better or Walker is better than like Rochelle, or even does Dawson do better on the others in the midfield, do you think? Thanks, guys. I know people want me to keep this short and sharp because I could turn this into a Crows podcast, but I would say Thilthorpe's better. Obviously, he's younger. I think I'll leave it at that. I think Thilthorpe's better. Walker's still pretty good. I think Rochelle's good. Dawson's going to win the Brownlow when the Crows going to win the premiership. So there you go. That's my
Bales, what happens when they go up against a team that can kick straight and expected scores says you should lose by 5 goals?
Yeah,
Liam.
I won't think of that. I'll think of the 4 points. But
no. You guys, I listened to the recording from Saturday morning. There's far too much Crows positivity for a team that only managed to win the game, because how many blokes miss shots directly in front of goal? What are you?
We won the game.
Dawson, great mark, but don't get over your skis. Don't jump the shark. You guys should have got absolutely hounded. Absolutely ruinously destroyed. It should have been a 5-goal margin.
Not even close, Liam. Did you watch the last quarter, or did you look at the stats?
Yes, I did. 8 behinds. 6.
Yeah. So don't you think don't you think if one of those 8 behinds had been a goal, it would gone to the middle of the ground? We couldn't get it past half back. So it was just shot after shot. As soon as they kicked one, it started again from the middle. I don't buy into that. We were 3 goals down against the reigning premiers in the wet, and we won. I mean, you can put any spin on it you like, but we won. And that's all that matters.
I don't like. I think there have been some great Crows performances this year. This was not it.
We had to win, Liam. That is all we had to do was beat them.
Am I on the right podcast? Is this a fantasy footy podcast?
Sorry, Guesty. I hijacked it.
Yeah.
Well, Carson Richards says he thinks Hawk's going to kick straight as Friday night, but we will see. But we'll go back to the fantasy chat here. Kyle Mann Guesty has asked thoughts on Bice, Hasty, and Peatling to McCercher, Hugh Jackson, and Miles Bergman. What are your thoughts on those 3 ins, and then Miles Bergman as an in?
Yeah, well, what do we think? I wonder if he could get to a Doc rather than a Bergman, but that's a question I want to ask the boys. What do we think if we're comparing Doc to a Bergman?
Jordox, what do you reckon?
I'm big on Bergman, and I like Doc. I saw what Doc did Sunday night. He did look really good in the role. I'm not going to lie, but no, I've been a big fan of Bergman for a while, and every week that rolls on, I get more confident in him. So I've got to try and get him in.
Yeah,
I think there's just something to be said for the fact that Bergman already has defensive status and Doherty does not.
Yeah.
As much as in our minds for so long he has been defender.
Yeah.
I thought Bergman looked great. Probably one of the most impactful games he's had. My only question, and this is someone who's traded him in, his role was very much follow Toby or follow Brent and then try and work off of that. I don't know if I love that as a role for every kind of matchup. So play the same game. I think he might play on Cozzy, he might play on Petrarca, depends on what the balance is this week. Might spend some time on the ball, behind the ball. Port Adelaide then go the week after to Sydney. We haven't seen. He might be the one playing on Heaney. They might have a new, midfield balance by that point as well with Goulden back. But it's just something to be aware of. He scored really well. Took some great intercept marks. And still got involved a little bit higher up the ground. But it's not a traditionally spectacular role.
Yeah, as someone that traded in Bergman last week, watching that role, I probably wouldn't recommend him. As it doesn't mean you have to listen to my recommendation, but I just don't. I just think he follows that, as Taser made the good point last night as well, saying that following that, I guess mid 45, Toby Green around, and even when Toby was clearly hampered, he just stayed at full back on him, and just wondering if like a Cozzy Pickett, if he stays on him this week, if he just plays forward instead of that midfield role, does that just mean Berman's going to be playing at full back the whole game, and just a one-on-one with Cozzy, or is he going to play on Petrarca? So just the role uncertainty, whereas I guess with Doc, if you look in between the two, I'd probably only go there. I know he's got less flexibility, but we know that he's playing his half-back role. You're going to trade both anyway, and you could maybe say if Doc, I don't know if he can get defender status, but I guess maybe that's sort of the wishful thinking that you might be able to get. But I know that who was the one that asked that again? Kyle said he's already got Doherty, so that makes a decision for you. If you're keen on Berman, you can go for it. There's just some questions with that. I'd arguably go actually, where we put Colby in this, would we go Colby over all these guys because he's cheaper and I guess looks good, better in the role? Jordox, would you go Colby over the other two?
Yeah, that value is just too good.
Guesty?
Look, once again, my focus has been on who's your best 18 players this week, right? So I think McCercher is probably better value. I mean, he's definitely going to make more money, but is he going to score more than a Doc? I probably think Doc's got a higher ceiling. We'll see how Kirch goes in this role if it sticks, and maybe he'll match his ceiling, but we just haven't seen it yet. So, look, like I said, my focus is a bit more on scoring than it is cash. So I probably would lean Doc, but and that's over Bergman as well as over Kirch.
Yeah, And then Liam, to tie a bow on it, where would you put Colby in though with those two?
Oh. I'll couch this by saying I've not looked at the runs for both Bergman and Colby. I think I might lean Colby just for the value at the minute. But it's pretty close run thing.
Yeah, Colby's got Freo at Optus, Carlton at the G, Hawthorn at UTAS, and then the Dogs. That's his next 4.
Actually, I think Colby's got the ceiling over the 3 of them. If you look at his scores last year, unless Doherty becomes, Doherty circa, 2017 or whenever those great years were. But McCercher, he's got a ceiling if he's in that role.
She's got to get those marks up. Obviously, just the one. I think had a bit more to do with the West Coast matchup, and again, that game was a bit of a hard watch. Just I think in general, as a lot of people have said, but just something to watch. But good discussion from that. I think all 3 are definitely viable options and options that I'm definitely looking at bringing in this week. Dylan James got a super chat. Thank you, mate. He's looking at going Levi and Ned Long. Okay, this is the other one that's actually good that we've got this question here. Levi and Long for Kenny and Bond. Right. So, Liam, I want to get your thoughts on Ned Long. Is he a trade or spade? Shout out to a good friend of the show, Nathan. We'll do this here. What are you doing with Ned Long? Trade or spade?
He's a fat spade at the minute. That guy's averaging over 100 in his last 3. He's looked like their best scoring midfielder in the past month. And he's more than holding his own in the midfield. Whereas there, as we've just talked about, there are sideways options for Roberts. There are upgrade options for Roberts this week. I think Roberts to a Sinclair and Isaiah is a perfectly comfortable trade this week and gets you to a player who's top of their line. And I just don't know how many midfielders we're confident in are better than Long at the minute.
Yeah. Well, I completely agree. When you look at the mids this year, we're looking at in terms of the averages, you've got Jordan Dawson's the only one going over 110. Then you've got Brayshaw is number 2 at 104.8. McCluggage is actually the third highest averaging midfielder, 103.8, along with Jai Caldwell, who I think is still a great option. Just sucks he's got a bye coming up. Then Nick Dacos. Then you've got Josh Dunkley, who's obviously dropped off. Bont is there. Then obviously Zach Merritt, Tom Green. So it's like a lot of these guys around that 103 average. And we're looking at Ned Long, who's averaging 111 over his last 3 games. So I just think he's hold.
I wouldn't say trade him, but I guess the only thing to consider with Long is if he has a quietish game, how quickly do the Pies bring Tom Mitchell back in and have a look at that? Because I think in a perfect world, they've got Tom Mitchell purring and ready to go for finals. Just interesting one to watch the next few weeks.
I feel like Ned Long may have even. I feel bad saying this because we love the Tom Mitchell the pig, but I feel like Ned Long is almost more important for them at the moment. He's playing really good footy, but it'd be interesting to see if they play both. Can they play both?
But you know what I mean. If he has a down game, they may be tempted just to say, "Oh, we'll rest him and bring in Titch." So anyway. But I would trade him now on the back of 3 tons. He's looking very good.
And as I said last night, my only question mark was he went off 3 times in the last quarter. Collingwood have done that, particularly when it's been a close game. They trust, obviously, the older heads, like your Steel Sidebomb, Scott Pendlebury, obviously your Nick Dacos and guys like that in the midfield. But they got St Kilda and West Coast. I anticipate Collingwood will win both those games and it won't be as close. So I think he'll be fine, at least for a couple of weeks. So I would be holding there. And Roberts has got to go. Well, he doesn't have to go, but he's not top 6. Good opportunity to trade him. I know you could say Ned Long's not top 8, but I'd be fine trading out Matt Roberts there as well. What do we got here? We've got a couple more questions just before we wrap up. Which ones have we got? Will's asking if I want to comment on the whole Caro stuff, but I'm definitely not going to do that because that will open up a can of worms. We'll leave that. We'll keep it on fantasy. Jelly Time Guesty has asked, would you go Colby over Jackson? He said Z Jackson. I'm assuming that's not huge. I'm assuming that's Luke Jackson. Would you go Colby over Jackson?
Well, I mean, there's big differences, right? So what do we got? Defender mid and a forward ruck. Look, I'm just uncertain about. I'm uncertain about what's going to happen with Jackson in that role. I think the uncertainty is you just don't have. Look, with Colby being priced where he is, if it doesn't pay off, you probably still make some money. Even if he only averages an 80 or something along those lines, you're still making money. Whereas with Luke Jackson, you pretty much can risk losing money, right? Look, they're just so different. It's hard to compare. I mean, what are you talking? A guy that's almost $1 million and a guy that's close to half that, right?
Yeah. I think Jack's about 900K and Colby's a lot cheaper. I'll probably go Colby for the value. I just want to see how Luke Jackson goes again in this role. Do they keep it? With Darcy with the week off, do they put a bit more? They played really well with this, so it'd be interesting to see how that role does look for sure. Sean's got this question, Liam. He's saying a two-part question here. So he's asking to pick one from Butters, Sarong, and Walsh, and then he's saying, and then also choose one from Jackson or McRae. So Butters, Sarong, or Walsh?
Butters and Jackson would be where I am going.
I'd agree with that as well. What would you think of Walsh, just quickly as well? Because I thought obviously the role was a little bit better on the weekend with a few more CBAs there. What did you make of his game?
Sam Walsh is still the fourth best midfielder at Carlton at the moment. I don't think there are many things that Sam Walsh has done this year where he has been better than Adam Chera. So I'm not that hot on him.
Yeah. These next two games, you might go all right, but yeah, I guess that Carlton changing those roles all the time. Maybe you want to probably steer clear for the time being. Luke Wood's got the final question, Jots. We'll finish off with this super chat. So thank you, Luke, for the super chat. So he's asking here, Bice, Langford, and Levi to Colby, McRae, if he's back, which I believe he's not an injury report, so I think he will be back, and Zach Johnson. Or would you go Bice, Langford, and Gross to two Rooks and then one of Butters, Sarong, or Steele?
That's the first option quite easily for me. Quite easily.
Are you keen on McRae first week back? You find bringing him in?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could do it. For me personally, I'd like to have a look, but I don't know what we're looking at. I mean, I don't think he's going to be too different in his role, but I don't know. He wasn't killing it when he went down injured. So I guess that'd be my hesitation to just jump straight back in. But in terms of those two options together, Colby, I think, makes it for the first one for sure. Steele and Sarong, they're interesting. I mean, Steele's over $1 million now, and he's looking a lot better. I'm not convinced that's going to be for the whole run home. And
with McRae come back as well, that might eat into it.
Yeah. So I guess if you did end up on the second option, Luke, I'd go Butters over the other two for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking as well, if you can go Colby, McRae, and Johnson, if he's going defender, midfielder, and likely, I don't know if Levi's in the mid or forward, but if you've got DPP, I'd go Butters over McRae. Butters is $3K cheaper, and he's coming into slightly better range. He's got maybe a potential couple of tags. I'd wonder if Melbourne run a tag on him this week like I did with Dacos on the weekend. Probably not as tight as that, because that's one of the tightest tags.
I think they would. That was effective.
Then they got Sydney, obviously St Jordan, and then they got Chincotta. So I wonder if Butters gets a couple of tags there, but I still like Butters because he's some good value, so I like him. Beautiful. All righty, well, that'll wrap us up, but we will go around the room and see what we're doing trades. 24 hours removed now from our last pod, and also the round finishing up. So, Liam, we'll go to you first, mate. What are you currently looking at with your trades, albeit only 24 hours from the lockout lifting?
Yep. So, at the minute, I am going Toby Green, Levi Ashcroft, and Caden Cleary out, and in their place, I am bringing in what's his name? Luke Jackson, Matt Kennedy, and Tom McCarthy.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, hearing some whispers. Shout out to Drew Jones Goat Fantasy saying he's hearing some whispers that sounds like he'll be potentially making his debut. So one to watch for sure. And if he comes in, will be a very good option. Jordox, what are you looking at doing with your moves this week?
I don't know. I haven't really looked, but looking at it now,
you know that your year's not going great when you're like, what trade do you do? I don't know.
No. Well, you saw the other week when I had that great week. I was like, I'm doing this. I'm all ready to go. I don't know. But now looking at it, I mean,
that's the question.
I reckon bias to McCercher works. I really like Zach Johnson for Essendon, but of course McCarthy's there as well. There's just so many guys I could trade out, like Filippo, Bice, and Marek. What could I do with those three to get McCercher, a kid, and something better? I'll probably end up keeping Taranto.
I think trade the other guys ahead of him. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
Guesty, are your trades any different from last night? And even if they're not, let listeners know if they missed it last night, what you're potentially looking at planning on doing?
Yeah, so for me, Levi out, Sam Berry out, Riley Bice out, Isaac Keeler coming in because I need a forward rookie, and then Sam Doc and Colby McCercher.
Yeah, like it. I know Jordox probably isn't happy with Sam Berry going, but unfortunately, Jordox, it has to be.
He's done nothing since I've traded him in. Absolutely nothing.
I'm keeping him. I'm going to take him to the end. He's my boy.
You take him on the trip to Bali. So there you go. You keep it in. My trades are pretty much similar to what I had last night. Yeah, Carroll down to Zach Johnson, then going Bice to McCercher and Levi Ashcroft to Sam Doherty with 22K left over. So hoping I can get those done and pretty happy with those trades there. So that's what we're looking at doing. But as I said, that'll wrap us up. But appreciate everyone that tunes in live and sent through their questions. Apologies if you didn't get your question answered tonight. Had a lot of questions and a lot of super chats come through. Appreciate the people that put the super chats in there as well. But if you do want a guaranteed answer to your AFL fantasy question, or you'd like a team review, you can head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. Exclusive Q&As every week, team reviews every week for the Patreon members, other bonus content. If you'd like to help support us at the same time, you can become a Patreon member. Link is in the description of the podcast or the video, or head to patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. But Liam, mate, thank you very much for jumping off the bike straight up from footy training and joining us tonight. Always good to chat fantasy with you. Where can the people find you across the socials? And I know that AFLW stuff is starting to simmer away. The pre-season's kicked off for them. Any tidbits you want to give us ahead of the season?
Yeah, for sure. So you can find me on Twitter at Liam AFLW Fantasy. Yeah, definitely in the pre-season now for Free Kick. I've had interviews. I've had 3 interviews in the last week for our pre-season preview series. So you will be hearing from us, I'd say, in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, mate, love it. I know that I'm always keen for AFLW Fantasy, but the fact that my AFL Fantasy team is already in the bin, I need to get a hat somewhere. Hopefully AFLW Fantasy is the place to get it. And listening to you guys, Will, the great advice you do. I'm looking forward to having Free Kick back on the airwaves very, very shortly, mate. But thank you very much for jumping on with us tonight. Jordox, where can people find you? Find us keepers and the AFL late change and subs account.
Yep, so I'm on X at Jordox 2020 and find us keepers. I'm going to have it's just me. I'm going to have my 20th episode of Finders Keepers next week, which is pretty exciting. Get up to 20 episodes. I'm not sure if I'll do anything special, but yeah, I just noticed that yesterday. We're up to 20 next week. At Find Keep AFL on X, find the page and follow the podcast. If you play keeper leagues, you'll love it, hopefully. And then also at AFL Subs, of course, Elle, myself, and Liam helping out when needed, doing great work to bring the subs and late changes right to your devices out of the goodness of our hearts.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, mate. We appreciate everything that you and the guys at AFL Subs and Late Change are doing along with the pod. And thanks for joining us as always. Guesty, where can people find you?
On all the social pipes at Tim Guest AU.
And then you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials and us at AFL Fantasy Fans on Twitter. We appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. If you're listening back either on the podcast or video replay or live, and if you are tuning in on the replay, come join us next time. We're live every Tuesday for our Q&A, 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Perth time, along with obviously our Friday pre-lockout chat and our round review after the final game of the round. If you are tuning in on YouTube, please smash a like on the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We are less than 70 subscribers away from 4,000. So big goal, and we're very close. Appreciate everyone that's already subscribed there. If you are listening back on the podcast, 5-star rating and review, that would be hugely appreciated from all of us. But yeah, I'll be back tomorrow for Trade Talk. We'll be back on Friday for a pre-lockout chat at the same time as always. But thanks, guys. Have a good week, and we'll chat to you guys very, very soon. Thanks, everyone. Catch you then. See ya.
See ya.
See ya.